Hey there, folks. Francis Vapes here. Just did a build on that velocity. Just uploaded the video. This is my third video today. And what I'm doing here is I've put a 26 gauge build in this Zephyrus tank. Titanium. And the coils are huge. As you can see, I don't know if this is going to work or not. I had a build coming in at about, I want to say 0.35 or something like that, in another one of these with titanium wire. And I was experiencing some hot spotting. Haven't torn it apart to rebuild it yet, but I've got this one, and I'm really actually thinking I can fit these coils inside this chimney, but the major concern that I have, honestly, is whether or not I'm going to be able to keep them from touching the lead from the other coil. That is going to be the most difficult part, because there's just not a lot of room there. So I'm going to try and tweak this a little bit. I don't know if this is going to work or not, and I'm just sort of going to find out and wing it right here on camera. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to try and get it to work. This would be an ideal build for this tank. This is how I built this velocity. It's the same build as I put in the velocity. But I've got it in this little tiny RBA deck. And I'm bending up these little leads. I'm not sure if you can see that. These little leads that are poking through the other side are wanting to touch these coils. So I'm just really trying to bend them out of the way. Alright, folks. I probably just had a little blip there in this video. Now I think I've got it within... Ooh, I don't know. That is like really close. I don't know if that's going to short or not. I'm going to screw the chimney on and see if I'm hitting it at any of these points. Yeah, it's touching. It looks like it's within the limits of the deck, but then when I put this thing on here, it's like touching the chimney. But maybe once I get it on. Oh yeah, it's touching. For sure. That's definitely going to short. Now, there's a possibility I could kind of tweak this a little bit. If I can keep those leads from touching. That's going to be tricky if this fits now. Too big, folks. 3mm with 26 gauge, not going to work in this. So let's start over. Alright, we're going to have to start over, which is kind of a bummer because that was actually a pretty nice build there. But I've got some hand sanitizer on a napkin here, and I'm just kind of running it across this wire to get the residue from the machining off. There is a little bit of residue, but now it's nice and clean. Alright, so I'm going to have to go down to a 2mm screwdriver. And we will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12. So I am not going to be able to hit the resistance I was looking for. So I'm gonna try something a little more reasonable size wise, and I've got 13 wraps around a 2mm. So let's give that a whirl. I'm just gonna put these leads ever so gingerly in here. I have not experienced as many issues with the snapping of the wire with the titanium. However, there has been a couple of builds that I've done where I did snap the wire fairly easily. But I'm guessing that in that scenario there was really sharp screw base, tips. And when I tighten those leads down, the screws were too sharp on their tips, and they snap the wire. So it's looking a lot more manageable there. I was really trying to squeeze some stuff in there that didn't want to go, and it couldn't get that chimney on there. So now I'm just kind of grabbing this and kind of tweaking it a little bit, and I haven't pulsed it, and it's looking pretty good. And that's pretty easy to do with this titanium wire, and I'm kind of surprised. You know, you can't even do that with Kanthal; it's too springy. So I'm actually, you know, the more builds that I do with this wire, the easier it's getting, and I'm finding that I'm definitely liking it more for temp control than nickel at this point. Just because of the safety concerns. I definitely prefer how nickel performs more, but because this is easier to work with and it's safer, now I'm starting to prefer the titanium. Now I'm really trying to get as super close as I can to this post because I don't want to be shorting out my positive lead with this other coil. So coil number 2, 13 wraps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This seems to be a good size coil. I think it's going to come in somewhere around 0.2. We will see once we get it onto a device. Now, here's a little trick I got. When I go to put this lead through here, it hits that other coil like right away. You know, so a lot of times what I'll do is once I get that lead in there, I will bend up like this, and then it'll come right up. It'll come right up out of there with like no issue. And I trim these leads the same size, which I know I can't do. So I'm going to trim this other one down so that I can get it through the hole. I've been doing that for a while now, and it's really simplified some of the builds that I've done where I just get so frustrated. It just kind of feeds itself right up and makes it easy for you to get to. And it doesn't push your other coil, you know, out of alignment or go through the other coil, and then you've got this tangled scenario. So I'm going to tighten down my center post lead first because I know that that's the distance that I want from the post, and then because it's going to like start moving around when I do that, and then I can kind of just put this where I want it a little bit, just kind of generally orient it, and then I'll kind of hold it with my finger, and then I'll just tighten this other one down. And you know, you could use 2 screwdrivers too, have one in there and then use another one to tighten down. But I, of course, am using the same screwdriver that I use to wrap the coil as I am to tighten down the screws because it's the only one that fits these tiny little screws. So I've got this kind of where I want it. I'm using a pair of like needle nose pliers here. I typically use these, but it's just a lot easier with something like this that is a little bit looser on the tension. Like I don't have to. I can kind of grab these, and I have more control over how much pressure and how much I'm grabbing than I do with those other ones. Those other ones, it's like no pressure, and then you've squished your coil, like from one little squeeze, you know. Let's get this trimmed. Okay. It's weird. Titanium is tough, but it's also soft enough to cut easily. It's kind of an odd little balance that you have there. Okay. These are not perfect, but I'm liking them for the most part. Okay. I am not going to pulse these. I am going to see how it performs without pulsing them. 0.24 it says. Which actually my and I didn't fire it in between to say, hey, new coil. So now it's asking me, yes, new coil. 0.27 it says now, but we had like a momentary, when it registered, it heated that up just slightly. So let's see if we can't get it back down to that initial resistance. Yeah, no, it's I'll have to do it later, but it'll work for the moment. But initially it said 0.24. But it didn't say new coil yes or no, so when it did ask me if it was a new coil, by that point I had heated it up slightly by the initial resistance checking. I should have remembered that I needed to take the atomizer off and then let the device know there was no atomizer, and then the device will start to look for a new atomizer. You know, this wicking in these things is like, you just can't, it's like, really got to just use a little bit of wicking material here. It's very, very little. Much less than you would think. You know, I've learned that with these types of tanks. You know, and I started wicking this way. You know, and I don't remember who it was that I watched, but I learned to wick this way watching somebody, and that was when I was building orchids. So I just wick this the same as I do an orchid. Actually, it's a little easier to wick because the juice channels are so much bigger that I don't have to do as much tweaking and trimming on the wicks. I kind of just, you know, do a size estimate and then go with that. There's a little bit of tweaking that needs to happen with usually at least one of the wicks. You know, because when you put this chimney down on here, it wants to grab those wicks and put them right down in those channels, and that is not what I want, because I will not have effective wicking that way. Where traditionally with Kanthal I would be getting dry hits, it will just simply limit the temperature to the point where I won't be getting any kind of good hit. So what I'm going to do is actually in this situation is I'm just going to point these wicks up until I get the chimney on, and then I'll just kind of poke them down on top of the juice channels. If I can get this on here without poking them back down again, and that one did go, but we're going to try and make it work. These chimneys are super easy to cross thread, so you have to be very gentle. The threads are fine on them. You know what? They're fine, but they're spaced kind of far apart, so it's very difficult to get this on here nice and smooth. Once you get it, it's like, oh, okay, it's nice and smooth. But getting it started, for whatever reason, whether it's the cotton getting stuck in the threads or whatever it is, it's like a real pain, you know. Make these threads better, You'd. So we're going to hope that that's going to wick properly. I never did clean this. I cleaned the glass section. I didn't dry the glass section properly. It's still got a little. These videos are getting longer, folks. But at any rate, let's take that O-ring out. You know, I'm always looking for that perfect vape experience, like I talked about in the last video with the velocity, to fit within the parameters of my life. You know, I don't want to carry a bunch of batteries and I don't want to charge batteries in my car. I don't like to have to remember too much crap to vape. You know, it's supposed to be you know, convenient, you know. Okay, we'll put some juice in here. Yes, this is a top fill tank. I am filling it from the bottom for the purpose of this, just to be quick. Okay. Just looking for a drip tip here, in case you're wondering, folks. Okay. Alright. New coil up. Nice. 0.2. That's a big difference between 0.2 and 0.27. Alright, let's try it at 500 degrees. No, 480. On hard mode. I think I just popped the coil. My resistance dropped down to 0.12. That's exactly what just happened. I must have been shorting. Let's see what happened. I didn't test fire this before I put that chimney on there, and perhaps I should have. And then I probably should have test fired it after I put that chimney on there. Let's see. The coils don't seem that loose. Well, it's back up to a higher resistance, but now it's temperature protecting right away. So that tells me something's up. Either a loose connection or a short, which in turn will cause a hot spot. And I think one of these leads might be touching there. Up. Oh, oh. The challenges of working with temp control. The resistance is jumping all over the place, so right now it's temperature protecting no matter what. I wonder if I probably need to let this cool down and try again in a moment. Okay, well, we've let it cool down and made sure there was no shorts, and it seems to be firing real nice, actually. But the question is, can I get the chimney on there without shorting it out? The answer, we'll find out. I think my main issue is these wicks. I don't want to get these, threaded down into the wicking channels. So you gotta get it's a bit of a challenge, these builds. I think if you want to achieve your target resistance, that's going to give you the vape you're looking for. Well, for me, I'm talking about me, which is pretty much all I do when I do these videos. But yeah, see, I got that caught down in there, I'm trying to get these wicks. Okay, so now that I have the chimney on, I'll try to fire it again to see if it's shorting. It appears not to be. I didn't see any hot spotting. Tastes a little burnt. It's not. I don't think it's wicking right now. Fast, really, because the vapor production has gone down. So I will take my fingers and cover up these airflow holes. Or, actually, this one is the authentic, so the airflow moves a lot easier on this. With the other one, my clone, I have to cover it up because moving the airflow ring is a chore. So I just close off the airflow, give it a couple tugs, make sure I got some juice up in there. It seems to be flooding a little bit, but the power is just not. It's gone into wattage mode. It kicked me out of temp mode. Either that or I pressed the buttons a bunch of times and accidentally let it go into, which is possible. If you click it 3 times, it goes right into the wattage or temp mode, and if I hit it one more time, it would have gone to power mode, and then if I didn't hit it for like a second, then it would have gone into power mode. Yeah, it's flooding a little bit. So this is the initial setup you go through with this kind of stuff, these sorts of builds. So I'm going to take my screwdriver and I'm going to poke these wicks down, just making sure that I've got them on top of these channels. Maybe even a little, down inside there, if I have to. I may have also flooded it with all that suction. But it kind of has to break in, Trying to burn off some of that. Some of that flooding. There's no shortage of juice inside there. And the tank's getting hot. And it's just really super flooded. So I'm going to do the old purge method. It's all going to come out of these air holes, so I'm going to wrap in a paper towel. Nice warm vape. That's 480 degrees. Came in at 0.20. Seems to be wicking a lot better now. Okay, now that I feel like I've gotten the vacuum kind of set just right and it's wicking, you know, better. It's not really flooding. No burning, no hot spots. Just nice, dense, rich, hot vapor. That's what I was looking for. Hasn't been taxing the battery too bad either. With nickel by now, with all this test firing and chain vaping I've been doing, I probably would have seen a much bigger dent in my battery. You know, it would be down to 3/4 already. So, vapor production, it's there. Density, pretty good. Flavor, it's there. Temperature, it's nice and hot. And that's not even maxed out, man. That's 480 degrees. It's a good temperature. I probably could stand to go down to 450. Lots of airflow in the Zephyrus. That's why I like it. If you can squeeze the builds in, the airflow accommodates it. I'm good with this. This is a success. It was a little bit of work to tweak those coils and get them in there just right and make sure there's no shorts. Tweaking the wicks a little bit, making sure that it's wicking properly. But it's working really well. Just a little bit of extra work, folks. You know, and you can get yourself a really nice experience. Now, this is a nice compact setup. You know, I can throw my silicone on here and just go with it. Vaping great. So, there's a titanium build in the Used Zephyrus 26 gauge, 0.20, 13 wraps around a 2mm each side. A little bit of extra tweaking to get it in there just right. But once I got it, it's performing well. Thanks for watching, guys. Francis Vapes here. I'm out.